I'm Gary Erickson.
And I'm Tyler Hogue.
We became best buds through the heavy music scene.
And now we're doing a podcast, breaking down our favorite bands, albums, and shows.
This is All Consuming Podcast. All right. Welcome. Another episode of All Consuming Podcast.
Let's go.
Today we're going to be talking about War of Ages.
Yep.
As I'm sure you could tell by the title of the episode. Unless you don't read or you're just listening to them in a row. Surprise! War of Ages. So Tyler and I have been wanting to talk about War of Ages for a while. They've been on. We have a list. We both came up with like a top 10 list of bands we wanted to do. And the ones that match, you know, we've done. Or, well, there's been a few that were never on the list. Like Idle Threat. That was a surprise to us. We're like, yeah, let's do a new one. Let's do this. Anyways, long story short, we really wanted to do War of Ages. As some of you know, that's what our podcast is named after. One of their songs.
Yeah. All-consuming podcast. All-consuming fire.
Fire, yes.
Oh, yeah. You know, and that list that Gary's talking about that we had, pretty awesome stuff. Like, we did this kind of like blind. Like, Gary's like, you do yours and I'll do mine and it'll be so fun. And then we'll compare notes. And
is that what we sound like? Huh.
I think that's what we sound like.
Hey,
and,
man,
you know,
I'll come up with a list.
We had a lot of similar ones, you know, and we're like, for sure, the ones that are similar, we got to do those, you know. Gary's obviously, he wants to do Five Finger Death Punch at some point, but we're not going to. That was like his number one on there.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
But, you know, we both wanted War of Ages because obviously, like, our podcast was named after All Consuming Fire. But Gary, like, it's also the first, like, show we actually saw together, which is pretty cool. But before we get to the show, we actually had a few other names for our podcast. Mm-hmm. Or, like, prototype names. Names we were, like, just going through. Do you remember those?
I remember some of them because some of them are
well,
like
lucky
really
for you. Lucky for you, I wrote some of them down.
All right.
Just for this moment. Okay, you ready?
So you're going to go through them? All right. Let's relive the embarrassing decisions.
So the first one that this was going to be, we were going to be called Fit for a Podcast.
Yeah, I remember that one because we were like, people will think we'll just be about Fit for a King.
You know, and for some reason we felt like, this is what you're going to see. For every one of these names, we felt like we had to put podcast in there somewhere, which I don't really know why now. Yeah. The next one was Repent or Podcast, which, I mean, that's a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
Also not welcoming.
Depends what you're going to talk about.
Also very not welcoming to outsiders. So there's that. How Great Thou Podcast. That'd
be sweet. Going through hymns.
Just the whole time we just review hymns. I mean, 1,500. I think we just gave somebody, a listener on here, an idea for a podcast.
You know, I'd probably listen to an episode. You know, like if someone talked about like where a hymn came from.
There's actually some pretty awesome, crazy stories with some hymns. So there you go. You just got that one. Bibles and breakdowns. That was my choice. You know,
that was
Gary
like the first one. I remember
Gary's like, that's lame.
I was like driving on vacation. I'm like, Jen, text Tyler and be like tell him we need to do a podcast. And she like texts him and he's like, Bibles and breakdowns.
Bibles, breakdowns, and barbecue. Like the Guy Fieri of podcasts. That's who we could be right there.
Sweet.
Okay. Impending podcast. That's another one.
It's coming.
At some point.
It's coming out soon.
That's a podcast to remember.
Yeah.
Only one time, a long time ago, we remember that one. And the last one that we had written down was Five Finger Podcast. That was obviously Gary's.
It's not Five Finger Death Podcast?
Five Finger Death Podcast. Those are all silly and ridiculous. Like saying them right now, I'm actually embarrassed, and we should probably cut this out of our episode. You know what I mean? Like, did we really Repenter podcast? That's what we were gonna do. I am so glad
we were never gonna do that one. No, I mean a lot of them were just kind of funny. I think there's a lot more than that too that we texted back and forth.
Yeah,
like it's just we like went through, just like shuffled all of our music, and it's like, here's a song, put podcast in there, and text Tyler, you know.
And then we came upon All Consuming Podcast. Don't really know how it happened, but like I am so glad that we chose All Consuming Podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I like the name not just because it's like a War of Ages song that is like my favorite War of Ages song, but like just the words, all consuming, like everything podcast. Just because we don't just talk about a band lightly and brush past them. We like we do our I mean, we fully consume this, right? Like we love this music. We're not just like talking about stuff we don't like or don't care about. We're not just picking the popular bands. We're picking stuff we really like.
Yeah.
But it's also that, when we first started this podcast, we didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't know what this was going to look like. We were just going to start talking and see where it went to. And now we kind of have a structure. You can kind of tell the past like 5 or 6 episodes have been kind of a formula of like how it works. But I mean, all consuming, like we were thinking it could be anything.
Yeah.
Not just genre related, but secular or Christian, like just Christian dudes doing a podcast. All of it. Like but yeah, I don't know. And I like where we're going. I like what we're doing. It's a lot of fun.
For sure.
But yeah, just I like the name for more than just the pun on All Consuming Fire.
Yeah.
I think by itself it's a good name.
Yeah, it fit well, and like no regrets for sure.
For sure.
I'm sure there's some people, even bands when they change their names or whatever, like they're like, yeah, that was probably a bad choice.
The Devil Wears Prada. It's a great name.
It's awesome.
It's after a novel that I really like. That won't make a movie out of it.
Yeah, like when a band goes from Ludacris to Norma Jean or whatever, like bands change their names, and they probably wish they would have had awesome names. We're not going to change the name of this podcast, Gary.
Not yet.
Unless we get an overwhelming sensation of people that want us to be fit for a podcast.
The Tyler and Gary Show.
Ooh.
Get rid of podcast.
I feel like this is more the Gary and Tyler Show.
Oh, alphabetical? I got you. Yeah.
Alphabetical. Okay, so let's focus on, like, we saw these dudes together. Like, to put you guys in this perspective, when Gary and I first met, like, we met over music, over heavy music. That was our first bond. Haste the Day was, like, the first band we kind of, like, listened together. When he picked me up on the street, that sounds weird if you don't know the context. I was walking home from a college class, and Gary rolls up to me. We kind of, like, knew each other, rolls up to me.
In, like, a white van. I, like, roll down the window.
No.
You want some metalcore?
Ooh, metalcore.
Yes, please.
Yeah. And so he rolls up in his Jeep. He's like, hey, you want to ride? And I got in, and I heard he was playing Haste Today. I forget which album it was, but he's playing Haste Today, and
it's like the very first one, dude. American Love.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember thinking, like, oh, Tyler likes Kill Switch Engage. Like, that's what I knew about you.
Yeah.
Because I think we were talking about Howard Jones versus Jesse.
Yeah.
And as Daylight Dies was, like, the greatest that they did.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no, that's, like, too mainstream. If I play early Haste Today, he's going to be like, ew, this is noisy.
No.
It's raw, like, but... Yeah, it was playing, and I was like, oh, well, he's already heard it. I'm not going to shut it off.
And it was awesome, and we bonded over that. But the first show wasn't Haste the Day that we went to together. It was As I Lay Dying, Demon Hunter, War of Ages.
Bless the Fall.
Bless the Fall was there.
Yep.
And, like, War of Ages was the opener for that. They were the first, like, live band we saw together, and it was a pretty awesome show. Like, it's a really memorable show. The War of Ages part of it, though, like I remember a little bit, but not a ton.
Dude, so I looked online because I knew we were going to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I looked at what the set list was for that day.
Yeah.
And which is awesome, right? The internet tells you all these things, and you're like, oh, these are the songs they did. Awesome. They only played 5 songs.
Really?
That's why it was like, because I remember like, man, they were barely up there. Because they didn't stop and talk or anything. It was just like all of them. Demon Hunter, Bless the Fall, Azalea, they were just like play their songs and go.
Ran through,
like,
yeah.
It was pretty quick. But
was their first song All Consuming Fire?
So the set list says these are the songs they did, but not necessarily in order because
I
they
kind of
switched it
remember
up.
that being the first song.
But dude, I totally remember like getting there. So I've been to a few shows where it takes a few bands to get the crowd going.
Yeah, for sure.
And I remember being there and like, I mean, the pit was already pretty full. But right when they started, I don't even think there was music, and he just screamed all consuming fire, and then the music, and he's like burn, and it's like dude, and immediately the pit was going, and I was like, wow, look at this energy these guys just brought us from a 0 to 100, like so fast.
They were the Circle Pit Kings, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that
well, just because they're fast, you know. So
they are.
Circle Pit's the running, you know.
Yeah. That's awesome. I remember like the most I really remember. I remember the All Consuming Fire, but I do remember like how just freaking awesome and energetic they were. Like they were getting the crowd pumped. They knew that's what they were trying to do. And I remember like just like watching them, and like their guitarist is like out of this world good.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a ton about their solos, I assume, and their guitar work, and like so good. Amazing.
I don't even know if they have a song that does not have a guitar solo, or at least some kind of crazy sweeping bridge, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so this was my first concert I went to as an adult. And I was supposed to go to like a Demon Hunter concert a few weeks before this one. No one wanted to go with me, and there was some like school complication where I couldn't go either. So it was great that Demon Hunter went to this one. It was on this tour. So I felt like I didn't miss out. But what I'm getting at is Donnie came with me.
Oh, yeah.
You remember Donnie? He's my old neighbor. Donnie. He was in our like church group.
Yeah.
And Ryan was there.
Yep.
And Tyler was there. So if you look at our Instagram, our very first post that we ever posted is a picture of like Tyler, Ryan Clark from Demon Hunter, me, and Ryan Bordner. The guy that took the picture, it was Donnie.
Yes.
What a great guy.
Thanks, Donnie. Oh, man, that's funny. And Ryan was just on the last episode, the ABR episode.
Yeah, he was a guest. Yep.
I totally remember that part. Truthfully, for this show, though, like I feel like I was going for As I Lay Dying. An Ocean Between Us was like one of my favorite albums ever dropped. So stoked for them. And you were going for Demon Hunter.
For sure. Yeah, because The World is a Thorn just came out.
Right.
And I loved that album.
And we both knew a few songs from War of Ages.
No, I knew all the songs from War of Ages.
What?
Dude, I was way into War of Ages.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew like 3.
When we talk about some of the songs, I will talk to you about when the album came out and when I listened to it.
I was like, I saw them and I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are awesome. I got to go back and listen to them more. Because I knew through, what did I?
Rise and Conquer?
Strength Within, Rise and Conquer. I knew All Consuming Fire. But like a few of the songs they played, I didn't even know.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I went back and listened to it, and they keep dropping albums like crazy. So there's a ton of music to digest from these guys.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. They put on a great show. Even I have some friends that aren't really into metalcore or metal. But when they saw War of Ages live, they're like, they're a great band. They're really awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, that show is pretty memorable. I have one more thing to say about the show before we jump into this thing. So it was the first and the last time that I was unintentionally in a circle pit. You know, like one of those times where you're just kind of standing in a spot, you think you're safe, and it kind of drifts, and then the lead singer like spins his hand in a circle.
Go!
And you like look around and you're like, no, not right now. And you just get like swallowed up. Everyone just starts running around you. And I remember Donnie, he's never really been to a show like that, but he just like he was standing next to me and he got taken in the pit, in the circle pit, and I like ran and then got out. But Donnie just kept going. I remember he lost his shoe.
That's
and
awesome.
like he didn't get it back until after War of Ages was done. Because you know when the set's
Yeah.
over, people are like walking around, they're like holding up shoes, like who lost this one, and like holding up a hat, who lost this hat, it's like that's mine.
Oh, that's awesome. The last one, you didn't get in the circle pit at Haste Today?
Unintentionally, I said.
Oh, okay, got you. Because I feel like
Yeah.
when Everything Falls came on, we were like, we gotta go.
Yeah, no, I've been in probably 3 circle pits in my life intentionally, where it's like it started and I'm like, okay, I can go now, rather than like it's happening and I have no choice.
It's kind of like merging into traffic sometimes, when it's like just a traffic. You got to find your spot. You know?
But if you're already in traffic, like you don't get to choose. Like, boom,
it
you just got
forces
merged.
you in.
Yeah,
That's great. I didn't know that was your first. Okay, was that your first ever though? Because
actually, that was my first one I've been in. Yeah.
Right, because you go to like creation and stuff like that, and there's no
circle
moshing
pits.
allowed.
No. Yep. Up and down,
No
up and
moshing.
down. No left and right. Constantly. Up and down.
Oh,
what they say.
Gosh. That's ridiculous.
So, yeah, good memories. So should we jump into this? We're going to cover
let's
a
do
handful
it.
of songs. One thing we're going to do differently this episode is the past few we've done like an album, and we pick our favorite tracks or whatever our patrons suggest us to do. This time, because we couldn't really decide on an album, but we have so many songs that we just love from War of Ages, we've decided to just pick a handful of what we wanted, and our patrons picked a couple songs too.
Yes, they did.
So we're going to talk about those ones.
And so if you want to like jump in and be in those conversations for like songs we should cover, get on our Patreon, check it out.
Or just spam us on Instagram. Some people do that too.
That's how
They're just like, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do this? I'm like, hold on.
That's how this happened, dude. That's how this episode happened. We literally had somebody message us, says like, your name is All Consuming Podcast. When in the world are you going to do War of Ages, you hypocrites? They didn't. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, Tyler and I talked about it. We were editing our last episode, and it's like, like, how about now? Now's a good time. Like,
let's just do it. And so, spam us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Cool. So let's get into it, dude.
Sweet.
All right.
So we're going to go in order of when they released, of all the songs we picked. So the first one we picked is the song that got me into War of Ages.
Oh.
And that's Strength Within.
Yes.
So this is off of Pride of the Wicked, which is like their first quote-unquote studio album. They had an album before this one, but it doesn't really count because they re-recorded it and re-released it next. So that's like their second album is technically their first, but whatever.
Right.
But this is where a guy named TJ Alford joined the band, and he is from a band called Mortal Treason.
Yeah.
And I forgot about Mortal Treason for a while. And I re-listened to it because I was like, Mortal Treason, that sounds familiar. Anyway, they're great. If you like Jimmy Ryan screaming, so early Haste Today, really high pitch, in your face, fast, like Mortal Treason is your thing. You're going to like it. And super awesome Christian lyrics.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So he's in War of Ages now, and he's in here for a while. And he played bass, and he did backing vocals. So
really? That's cool.
That's cool. So I'll continue with my original thing. This is the song that got me into War of Ages.
Yeah.
I was probably like a junior in high school, and my little cousin, I say little, he's like 2 years younger than me. He's like right in between my brother and I's age, It's like when we hung out, who does he hang out with? The younger brother or the older brother? Like, it's tough. But yeah, we hung out all the time. But he showed me the music video for this, and I remember thinking, like, the music video is not good.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, really? The words, like, what the band is doing does not match or line up with the music. Like, there's a couple times where you're like, well, that might be... Nope, that's not it. But yeah, it's it's all right. It's not worth taking time out of your day to go watch it. But if you're like on YouTube and you're like, what do I watch?
Might as well do it.
Anyway, so I really liked the song because at the time I was mostly into like TFK or Project 86, a lot of that like rock,
not that heavy,
new metal. Yeah, and my cousin showed me this and I was so surprised that he thought I would love it because he at the time he was just getting into like Relient K, but it was mostly like Petra or like Pigeon John. I remember he loved Pigeon John at the time. Where am I going with this? So anyway, he showed me this, and I was just so surprised that he showed it. But the way the song starts, it's very poppy. It's very catchy.
Oh yeah.
You got that snare just popping, and the guitar starts, and it's so happy. And I'm like, hey, this is catchy. I like this. This is good music.
Yeah. It's interesting though, like thinking about just that intro part, like the drums, how they come in. Just like you said, it's super poppy. It feels like it could be like an easy core song or something like that.
That's totally what I thought, because I'm like, he's going to show me the next one. Okay, War of Ages. That's a weird pop band name. Okay.
And even like the next part that comes in the intro, like, oh, that could kind of be there. The dun 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 dun. It's like a kind of a muted thing. Mm-hmm. Like that kind of sounds like it'd be poppy too. But then the guitar comes in and he's like screams. But my wife, she said it sounds like Face Down by Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, and so we just listened to it, and it's literally just it's the drum intro. It does kind of have that feeling to it, and so unlike Gary here, I'm going to give credit to my wife for coming up with a little idea for the podcast, because I don't know, I found this out by talking recently to his wife, that he had this idea that one of the Norma Jean songs has a POD sound to it.
This is a lie. Did she pay you to
and so
re-say this?
And so his wife was the one that mentioned it to him, and he stole that idea from Jen, his wife. Yeah. Dude, she said it sounds like POD. That's what she told me.
She wouldn't let me defend myself either in the kitchen. She's just like interrupting. Nope, I'm not allowed to talk. Now this is recorded, Jen, so you can hear my defense. I remember playing it in our basement like sound center thing. And I was like, Jen, what does this remind you of? It was totally me that told her, like, I thought of it. And, of course, she did say, like, that kind of sounds like POD. It's like...
Or was it more like this? Was it, Jen, I'm so confused. What does this sound like? And she's like, POD. You're like, please. That's it.
Give me the answer to all these... You're the one that listens to this music all the time. Jen, this podcast, I couldn't do it without you.
Oh, my gosh. That's fantastic. On that note, we have figured that our wives will at some point do a podcast. So
yeah, that'd be awesome if they do an episode. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. Then they could just use all of their knowledge they have for this music. But let's get back on track with Strength Within. So you have that super poppy intro. What do you like about the rest of the song?
So yeah, I liked. When it starts, if you were fresh at War of Ages, you never heard of them, you would think at the first minute or so of this song it's like in A Day to Remember kind of sounding like not heavy, no core, but yeah, when his vocals come in you're like, okay, this is a little heavier than normal. I really wished that they would do what August Burns Red is doing and like re-record it, because the quality is not there. Like, you're gonna listen to this album and you're gonna be like, I'm done already.
No, they won't.
For me, I love it because it's like nostalgia. Like, it's very
it brings you back.
It's very I don't know. It feels raw, right? It's not produced. Like, this is like a live musical thing, and it's not cleaned up or doctored, and things aren't fixed. Like, it's great to me. But yeah, I mean, it is compared to what they do now. Miles apart.
Not even close. Yeah.
But there's a part like, where it's really catchy for a while, and he says like, all my hope is in you, and then it's just double bass pedals.
Oh, I wrote that down too, man.
Dude, I love so great. And it's like, I remember hearing that, as 16-year-old Gary being like, how is he doing that? That is so cool. Yeah. Like, I loved it. And then right after that, this like crazy guitar solo comes in, and he has like that talking part.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Like, and you know, I wasn't used to hardcore stuff. I'm like, why is he talking in the middle of a song?
Yeah,
like, you know, and I like the way like he like talks the first half and screams the second half. Like not really screams it, like raspy voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then like right when he's done with the talking part, you know, he ends it with like that tells us we are nothing. You know, boom, guitar solo is back. Like it went away so that he could talk, and it continued right where it was. But yeah, I mean, lots of energy. I think this is just like the definition of metalcore back then, you know?
And yeah, it's fun. You know, that's what it comes down to. This is like when it takes me back, like thinking about like just that intro riff alone, you know, after the drums. Like it brings me back to a time when things were just easier, you know, when Under Oath was making music with song titles that made no sense, you know, like it brings me back to that time, you know. But if they released this song or wrote this song today, I don't think it would be popular in the scene, right? Because it's just metalcore has gotten away from that, I think, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of the gang vocals, right, when they come in at the very beginning, it's like when they say "Show me your strength" and it's just gang vocals.
Show me
your
strength.
You know, people used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, listening back, like I didn't even realize how many bands do gang vocals with their stuff. But it was all the songs I listened to. And it's just not as popular anymore today. But man, I listened to this song and it just, like I said, brings me back to a different time. I love that solo too. And then, like you said, it goes down to the talking part, and then boom, guitar's back, and it's awesome, fun guitar work.
Yeah.
And the end's pretty cool too. When he says, "I cry out, I give you all," and he's just like screaming. It's kind of a breakdown, you know, awesome ending.
Yeah.
And it fades out.
I love that outro jam. Yeah.
Yes.
Just
so fun.
I'm like, that's a song right there. Where are you guys going? Why is it ending?
Just someone's turning the volume down. Like
exactly.
Slowly.
It's like, wait. They're like slowly
Where are you going?
The door. The song is over. Please leave. So Tyler, I think it's time for us to talk about the song of the hour.
Is it time?
It is. All-consuming fire.
Yes.
So, Arise and Conquer. It's probably my favorite album.
Yeah.
Of theirs. Just because it's the production quality is like what I was looking for with all of their other stuff, and you know, it's just great, fast music. But really, no lineup changes, no producer changes, no changes. Great,
okay.
Right? Good stuff.
Yeah.
So, the song's great. That's it. We're done.
So odd. It's so great. We'll name a podcast after it.
Yeah.
You know, like, geez.
Yeah, I can remember when we saw them in concert and they were playing the song. You turned to me and you're like, Gary, we should have a podcast named after this song.
And you're like, yeah, just hold on for about 12 years and then we'll do it. We're
Dude,
like, what is a podcast? Podcasts were not even popular back then.
No, yeah. No, yeah. So, let's jump into the song, dude. So I love how the song jumps into the song.
Rocket Summit Fire!
But what I really liked, and I think what really grabs my attention, is how like the rhythm guitar in the background like marries the lead guitar solo type stuff very well. Like just those two guitars playing together like that, it's so great. Like it's fast and slow, right? Like it's hard to describe. But yeah, I love that. The whole intro, how it starts like that.
The other songs that we've talked about so far, Strength Within and Battle On have had these kind of longer intros. The music is building up, the guitars are going. But man, he just comes in vocals and just hits All Consuming Fire. Burn. And man, and that's how you get people energized, dude. Like when that comes on, you know, and you're mowing the lawn or you're working out or whatever, you're like, yeah, let's freaking go, dude. All Consuming Fire, burn, let's get it. And then the guitars come in, it's awesome. I also really love, I think dynamically vocal wise, this is like a turning point maybe for them, because there's like, you got the backup vocals and the lead vocals kind of going back and forth throughout the song, especially like, you know, the verses in that first like All Consuming Fire part where they start like kind of screaming that All Consuming Fire, burn. And then there's lyrics that come, you know, right after that. It's pretty awesome. I really like that.
Yeah, and the lyrics too are like, I mean, it's like a prayer, you know?
Yep.
Like, we're probably gonna say that about every song, right? Man,
You
the
know what?
lyrics are, oh man, like,
This obviously reminds me of a popular worship song from the 2000s. Do you know?
Consuming Fire.
Consume me from the inside out of my heart. That song, you know what I'm talking about?
Maybe this is a cover of that. I never paid attention to the lyrics.
No, it's not. It's not even close. That song,
Oh,
people like it, I'm sure. But you know what? Like, I felt like it was like played a ton. You turned on any radio station, Christian radio station, it was on. You went to any
Dude,
church, they were jamming.
that's really what we named our podcast after. Was that one?
Consume me from the inside out. You know, and like, I really like, speaking of the consume me part, I might be jumping ahead, but when he says consume me, Lord, and then all of a sudden hits that Maylene and the Sons of Disaster guitar.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
And don't forget the transition.
Oh,
he says,
yeah.
Consume me, Lord. Yeah. And it's like, I totally wrote Southern Breakdown. I love the Southern Breakdown, dude. And,
Me too.
I don't know. Maybe we just don't hear it enough. So when we do, we're like, yeah. You
There
know?
we go. And it's just groovy,
But,
you know. You just kind of like bob
Yeah,
your
and
head
the way
to
it
like,
rides
yeah.
back into the chorus, like, I really like how it builds back. And I love the breakdown at the end of the song that, you know, guitar solo, of course. Wouldn't be War of Ages without it. And they do like this, it like the guitar solo kind of just holds its note, and you're like, oh, here comes another all-consuming. There it is. And there's like all-consuming fire, burn. And then the guitar solo like comes back for like just a couple notes, like it wanted to start again, but then he's like, all again, consuming fire, and the guitar's like, okay, here we go. And like after that one, the guitar solo continues, but then they scream it again, all consuming fire, burn. And I just like the way that the guitars are like they're trying to sing too.
Yeah.
And he's like screaming, and they're like, oh, gotta stop the solo. Try again. Nope. Try again. Like, it's just a fun and lots of energy. Great breakdown.
It's one of those, and I do remember this really from the show, like, and I'm sure it's everywhere they go. They play the song because this is a song that everyone's going to chant. Everyone's going to scream together because the lyrics are repetitive, you know, and awesome and super heavy. And like the ending of the all-consuming fire burn chants towards the end, just like, I don't know. I don't know if it gets much better than that. Like,
Yeah. But hey, Tyler, guess how the song ends?
how?
They don't just turn the volume down.
They don't. I know.
They just leave their amps on and let it buzz out.
Oh, consume it. Yeah, gosh. I just want to go listen to it right now. Only and take the fire part out and just put podcast. We should have them like
Hey, Leroy, if you're listening to this, can you guys redo that and just say all-consuming podcast? Burn? Like,
burn.
What would you...
That could be our intro.
All-consuming burn. Or podcast.
Podcast burn. You gotta say podcast really fast.
Yeah. Well, he says fire. Fire podcast.
Yeah.
He could do it.
Dude, but this song, This song's awesome. I think you said before at the beginning of this that this is probably your favorite song. This undoubtedly is my favorite song by War of Ages. And I don't know if it's like their best, as in like their most like musically the best or lyrically the best, technically the best, but it's my favorite for sure. Yeah. And it's just it's so fun. It's fun.
Yeah, and for the first time seeing them in concert, you know, where they just start with this song, like it just gets your attention. You're like, wow, War of Ages. I love this. Let's move on to our next song, which is off of the next album. Collapse is the song, but the album is Eternal.
That's right.
I kind of noticed that a lot of songs we picked are the first song on an album. Like,
I feel like that's their best song on the albums, though. For some reason, it's
stop opening the album with your best song.
Because you're so right. Like that has been the trend.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's crazy.
So anyway, Eternal. Some of the details. This is the last album that we have that TJ Alford guy,
right,
on bass and backing vocals and whatnot, and the last album with the rhythm guitarist Brannon Bernatowicz. I don't know how to say it.
Nailed it.
Yeah. But this is also the last album produced by Tim Lambesis. But speaking of that, this is kind of an interesting album because it's the. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's the first album with guest vocalists. Someone's gonna correct me.
Did I think of? I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're getting corrected in the comments.
Technically,
actually.
And if I'm wrong, please tell me. I like information. But it's got Tim Lambesis, guest vocalist. Josh Gilbert, which is the clean vocalist of As I Lay Dying.
Yep.
I didn't even notice that. Like, I knew it wasn't.
Which song is Josh Gilbert? Which song is Josh Gilbert on?
Like track 7 or 8.
I say because he has a really kind of distinct, unique voice that is awesome.
Yeah, I want to say like Lack of Clarity.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Gosh, man, I love when he joined As I Lay Dying. Those clean vocals just got awesome.
And it's funny because we talked about how clean vocalists are so hard to understand. He's one of them. Like, he's the guy that sings while he plays guitar, and you're like,
huh?
I know he's singing, but I don't know what he's saying.
I can understand, all of Tim's screams, but when it comes, yeah, that's crazy.
But it's also featuring Sonny Sandoval of POD.
Oh yeah.
I actually really like that song. I was like surprised. Like when I saw Sonny on a War of Ages song, I was like, why?
Dude,
what happened?
Sonny is an underrated guest vocalist on metalcore songs. I don't know if it's actually underrated. He's just legit on metalcore songs.
Dude, he's even on a Lecrae song, and that song's great.
I was thinking about the For Today song. What's the one he's on? It's a phenomenal song. It's on Immortal.
Yeah.
But man, it's just great stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the song by War of Ages.
Yeah.
So this song was actually selected by one of our patrons, Adam Canuel.
Yep.
And thank you for suggesting the song. We were already wanting to do it, so
it made it really easy. Dude, Adam's awesome though. Like the thing I love about Adam is that people can say that they listen to our podcast or whatever. Like my wife says she listens. I'm like, oh, really? Then what did Gary say? What did Gary say at 57 minutes? No, I don't say that. But like, he like legit, his comments on Instagram are like legit. Like, this is what I loved about it. And, it's pretty awesome. He loves interacting with us and we love interacting with him. So awesome that he joined us on Patreon and picked the song, man.
He makes us feel loved.
Yeah, he does.
So anyway, let's jump into the song. Yeah?
Let's do it.
So I love the way the song starts right out the gate. I remember the first time I heard it, I was surprised that War of Ages started a song or even an album this way, because they're usually, within the first 2 seconds, he's screaming.
Yeah.
But this one, it's very quiet. And it kind of like builds, like the volume, instead of the volume slowly fading on every song,
turning it up.
This one's slowly getting turned up. Yeah, I like what they do though. I mean, it's the chorus,
Yeah.
that's in the background kind of thing, slowly getting louder. But the way they do this chorus slash intro is Leroy screams like these long, he holds the notes in his scream quietly in the background, and the clean vocal is singing a few words that is basically what he's screaming. So he'll scream like alone in the background holding the note, and the singer would be like, we never were alone.
Right.
So they kind of complement back and forth, but I love the way they do that. It's a great dynamic. I do think when they come out of that intro and they jump into the song, like where the song really starts, to me sounds like
when he says yeah
it
sounds like what?
Killswitch Engage.
Really? Why?
Like, I can't put my finger on it. I even went through some Killswitch Engage songs, and I'm like, is it this one? No. Is it this one? No. I don't know. Maybe it's just all of War of Ages or something like.
And I think, dude, I saw this comment on Instagram, Facebook, somewhere. I don't know. Some
the
group,
internet.
maybe.
Okay.
The internet, the Google search. No, I don't know where I saw it, but they said somebody was like, "Hey, how have I never heard of War of Ages? They are literally the Killswitch Engage of Christian metal."
Yeah, it was a Christian Facebook group we were in. Yeah, I totally saw that too, and I was like, "What?"
Then one person's like, "Well, actually, Times of Grace is the Christian version." It's like, no, it's not.
That was
Calm
me,
down.
Tyler. Quit imitating me.
Yeah, but I totally feel some of the Killswitch Engage type of music, because this is the kind of the same time where they're both, like Killswitch is getting huge or has been huge for a few years at this point. And War of Ages kind of has that sound too, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I have a lyric I don't know. Sometimes the way he screams or says things, it gets stuck in my head, and I thought I would mention something that I really like. And I think I liked this one at the time because I was a young buck, and I felt like it related to me. But anyway, these lyrics that he has that build into the chorus for the second time. It's like the first verse. Anyway, I'll just read them. I love the way he says it, and I love the words. But he says, selfish anger, now plagued with a thought, our lives or nothing else. Hearts bleed from a lifetime of pain. We're reaching for empty dreams. And this is where the music kind of transitions and builds into the chorus. And he says, endless battle of death over life has allowed our lives to fade. So many times I felt like a failure. Such distance brings hopeless. And then he screams, "Ness!" Holds that note.
I love
and the way
that
way they build into the chorus with that, I love that,
dude. And I think what's pretty cool, and we're not even talking about the meaning yet, but I think why I love the way Leroy screams his vocals, it's almost like it's not rap, but it kind of has a cadence of rap, if that makes sense.
He's got like a bounce to his
there's definitely like a bounce. When he comes in, it's like that selfish anger part. Like he says, selfish anger now plagued with the thought. Yeah, just the way he sings that, man. It's just it's really cool and like super engaging. I don't know. I love it. I love that part for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like when he screams, I don't know, it just seems so easy.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
He makes it sound easy. Like you could do it too, but you can't. Okay.
There's some people that when they scream, I say like Jake Lures, like when he screams, it sounds like it's hard. You know what I mean? Like to
it
hit
hurts
some
him.
of those, it hurts. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this sounds like it's just normal everyday life for Leroy.
Like when you hear him talking in an interview, you're like, "That's not your voice."
That's not. Your
I've heard
voice.
your voice on 8 albums. Okay.
You should be screaming right now, dude. Yeah, and then like lyrically though, like. I love the chorus, and I know we were talking about the verse, but the chorus, we're filled with emptiness, reliving our mistakes. Why are you so afraid? We're never alone. It's just awesome. Like, I feel like if we dive into these lyrics a little bit, and I know we haven't necessarily yet to this point, But I don't know. I just love it. What do you feel like these lyrics are about?
So it's not like I wrote anything down for
Yeah.
like a summary, but honestly, I think a lot of War of Ages songs have a similar theme. You know, like helping people in their brokenness and letting them know that God is there.
Yeah.
And really that, I mean, that's kind of what this is too, you know, like the verse that I was reading, that I have written down, you know, it's basically like a lifetime of pain and, what's he say? They're plagued with a thought of our lives or nothing else. Like it's a very selfish living and endless battle of death over life. It's the same thing, right? Like instead of being focused on life, we're always focused on death, like keeping ourselves safe and not like how can we help others, how can we, you know, be a light to others.
Yeah.
But you know, and he kind of, the way he transitions into the chorus where he says such distance brings hopelessness, like ignoring the way he screams it and how awesome it transitions, like he's saying like the way that we're living like this distance from each other, this fear of death, and you know, it brings hopelessness. There's no hope in this, and they're kind of switching it in the chorus, you know, like failure, reliving our mistakes. Why are you so afraid? We never were alone, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't, it's just a lot of their songs are like this, so it's kind of hard. Like if we break down and wrote if a summary of a song or even an album of theirs, like they're going to be the same summary.
For a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, and I love War of Ages for that. I love what they're doing and how this is like an outreach for them.
Yeah. With this chorus, I do feel like Collapse is a little bit different, but you're right. Like a lot of what they talk about is this idea of like, here's what you are without God. Here's when we make mistakes, you know, all that type of stuff. And, you know, God is the right way. God, you gotta, you know, keep fighting for your faith and that type of thing. I do love, you know, and like that stuff, it does get boring, you know, but like you said, like it gets boring if it's like just repetitive and you're not really thinking, you know, about it. But like you said, like, it's awesome that they do this, that it's this outreach, you know, that like when you think about this chorus, we're filled with emptiness, reliving all of our mistakes, like just thinking of all the mistakes we've made in our life, you know, and we've all made those mistakes. Why are we so afraid? Even in all of that, like we're not alone. Like I think it's pretty cool. God's there this entire time. And we're full of all this like hopelessness and emptiness, and always dwell, you know, even today, like I dwell on the mistakes made, you know, the fear, this is dumb, but like the fear of like missing out on like, you know, stocks that went to the moon, you know, that could have made $1,000.
Dang it. If only I put all my money in Dogecoin.
No, you know, but like that's kind of a silly comparison, but we do it all the time. And I just love the idea how War of Ages, not only do they keep doing this, but they don't change. Like their stuff's about God, and it's always been about God. It's going to continue being about God because that's who they are.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
you
awesome.
know, I think they're like a staple in Christian metalcore.
Yes.
Like when I was listening to Christian music, not metalcore, like, you know, Spoken, Red, Disciple, rock, TFK kind of stuff. When I was transitioning to metalcore,
Be careful what you're saying, man.
transitioning my music tastes, just to be clear.
Okay.
You know, like War of Ages was such a breath of fresh air. Like,
Yeah.
I heard that first album and I was like, man, this is so good. And then they kept making the same sound that I loved, right? And here I am 8 albums later. 9 albums? 8?
8, I think, yeah.
I'll
Watch
say
it
8.
be 9.
We'll figure it out by the end of this episode. Yeah, you know, I guess, like, to me it's boring, but I still have so many friends, like that guy on Facebook that's like, where have I been?
Yeah.
This band is amazing. And it's like, welcome. We've been here for 15 years, you know?
As we're talking about this right now, we take it for granted.
Yeah.
We take a Christian band with Christian lyrics that are preaching the gospel consistently throughout their albums. As Christians, we take that for granted.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes. And
And
even
yet people
I do.
are begging for that. They're like, where's all the
are.
Christian music? And it's like,
We beg
there
for
are
it,
bands.
too.
It's just like we're I guess we want more. We want like new stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Like we'll pick apart, any of these other bands, like, thinking about it, like Leveler that just came out, the 10th anniversary or whatever. 10th or 15th? 10th. 10th. Whew, that was crazy.
We're not that old, man. Calm down.
The 10th anniversary came out, and I think of like Boys of Fall is like really like like that's like Christian lyrically and stuff like that. But like as Christians, we look at other songs like, oh yeah, there's definitely Christianity here. There's definitely this could be taken as Christian.
Well, it's positive.
It's positive, and all that. We love August Burns Red for that. But like War of Ages is doing it every album, every song, all the time.
Yep.
Gosh.
Worship metal?
Oh yeah. They are.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we do take it for granted.
Yeah. So that was a rabbit trail.
Kind of a rabbit trail. I'm gonna say my favorite part is when he says "yeah"
Which time?
and just screams it. The second time especially. Man, when he like is yeah into the breakdown, and then during the breakdown another yeah, like the lyrics are over at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that breakdown's pretty. That breakdown is awesome, and you get a couple things guaranteed with the War of Ages song. You get a sweet solo at some point, and then you get a nasty breakdown, and I love the breakdown. It's a
You
traditional.
also
like,
get
this
group
is,
shouts. Can't forget your group shouts.
You do, yes.
Although not on this song.
I don't think so. But you know what? Like, this song, and I think about it, like, I think about that breakdown. I think about the way they do their song lyrics. Like, and we've said this before. This is metalcore, man.
Yep.
This is, if you like metalcore, like, I can see how War of Ages is your favorite band. If you're like that traditional metalcore. You don't want to, go away from the path or stray away from the path a little bit.
Yeah.
But this song's awesome. There's a reason why it's 1 million more plays than any other song on Spotify.
Yep. Have you seen the music video for it?
Oh, a long time ago.
I rewatched it recently.
Feelings, thoughts?
I think it's hilarious. I mean,
hilarious.
Not like comical, right? I don't think it's a joke, but
Yeah.
just because how much flour did they use in this music video? It's the one where they're
I
like
know
caked
you.
in flour, and like every time he like pulls the mic up to scream something, there's like flour flying off of his head, and like the drums are just caked in it, and when he's hitting it, it doesn't sound like a drum. It's just like boom.
You know what that reminds me of, Gary?
Huh.
That reminds me of that time in college where we knocked on your door and flowered you.
At like 10 at night, I'm like, who is this?
So we got a bunch of buddies together. For some reason, we didn't invite Gary, which is weird.
What the heck?
I don't know. But anyways, we're like, dude, what can we go do? And we're like, well, I guess we could like prank Gary since he's not with us. And so we went and got some flour and knocked on his door and flowered him.
Grant was like standing on my roof with like a bag of flour. And I remember Zach, who like I'm acquaintances with. I talk with him, but we never hang out, right? He was like knocking on my door, and I'm like, why is Zach at my door at 10 a.m., like peeping through the little people?
10 p.m. p.m.
And, sorry, 10 p.m., yeah.
Yeah.
Dark,
Yeah.
right? I think Jen was asleep. And I went, we were like newlyweds at the time, and I went outside, and I was like, yeah. And he's like, can you step outside here for a minute? And I was like, this is really, like, what's going on, Zach? And I took like one step, and I heard Grant laugh or chuckle, and I looked up, and I saw he was holding something, and I backed into my house. And a huge amount of flour just flew in front of me. I think it got like my shoulder and my shoes. Like,
Yes.
but I guess that was a prank at the time.
It was a
going
thing.
on. Was it like a YouTube thing?
I thought he knocked on the door. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. He's like, excuse me, sir. Can I talk to you about my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ?
He might have, but I remember he wanted me to come out a little bit.
Just so you could get flowered.
Yeah. Like, I know he said, and I was like, what is going on? Like, this is awkward. And then once Grant did that, you see like these people behind cars like get up and run, and I'm like, and there's Kevin. You know, like who's that? Is that Nick?
We
like,
thought we were funny. We were completely stupid. But you know what? We're like, hey, Gary is a War of Ages fan. We just saw the Collapse music video. Let's make it happen right now.
yeah. Wait, that is about the same
It's
time.
right about the same time.
Dude,
it's close.
It really is.
Maybe that's where we got the idea from.
Huh.
That's awesome. You know, in this song, though, like, bringing it all back around, I love this song. It's one of my favorites. It's constantly on my playlist. And, like, it's War of Ages, man. This is what War of Ages is. They're a little bit different. It's a little bit different song. But, man, just great all around.
So, yeah, let's transition out of this and move on
To Alpha.
to Alpha. We chose to do Fullness.
Yep.
I did not think to do a song on Alpha, or rather, I did not vote. I didn't send a list of a song off of Alpha. After re-listening to this, I really wished I would have, because Fullness is a great song, and I'm glad Tyler really wanted to do it. So, the album Alpha. Picture of a dude holding, I don't know, a demon's head. Kind of dark, pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's their 8th album. It is the first album where Alex, the brother, the drummer, is not in it.
Okay.
So all this time it's been the same drummer. Here we go. New drummer. Caleb Lubchow? Lubicho?
I don't think it's Lube Chow. But
I think it might be Lubchow. Lueb Chow. Lueb Chow.
Okay.
Man, people need to have easier names. All right, and a new bassist, another one.
Okay.
He's also the backing vocals. His name is Andy Cottrell. And he's the one who's like in a lot of the choruses with the really clean vocals.
We got clean vocals, yes.
Yeah, like Leroy didn't learn how to sing really cleanly like this, in one album.
Right.
Or 7.
It's a big change. It's a big change.
It's super noticeable. Like, you're listening to them, and then you switch to this album, and you're like, who's singing? Like, that is singing. Like, anyway, I actually, like, looked into him, and he's got, like, a worship kind of sounding album. I think it's on Spotify, but...
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like his singing, but not this kind of music at all. Yeah. Right? And it's definitely more pronounced, where this is a lot more, I guess, cleaned up and produced to kind of be in with the guitars, where his voice in his stuff is on top of everything.
Right.
More focused. But anyway, this album, Alpha, is produced by Jason Sukoff. Does that sound familiar?
No. It should?
Well, unless, you know what? For a Leveler, I did not do a breakdown. I didn't do a deep dive because Ryan was there, and
I think we just kind of jumped in.
So he produced Leveler.
Oh. Okay.
He also did Emery, We Do What We Want.
That's a good album.
And he did Demon Hunter, True Defiance.
Interesting. Okay. So he's kind of a big,
that's kind of like the whole
player,
range. Man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
So on this album, there is one song that I thought to choose, but it's not a... I don't know. I mentioned it to you. I don't know if you remember. But the instrumental, Immunity Revoked.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's a story. Rabbit Trail. Here we go. So I was a new father when this album came out. 2017, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So when this came out, my son was about 6 months old, and he got upset pretty often. I would say he was a difficult little baby.
Yeah.
Or no, as a little baby, he was easy. But once he started to get to that age where he wanted to, like, play, and he couldn't move to get to his toys,
Sure.
Very fussy. Like, he's like, I have freedom, but I don't have freedom. Like, he's learning about things. And anyway, we went up to Mount Spokane to just go for a drive because we were on... Jen had not been working, so she had not been leaving the house, and it wasn't COVID times, right?
Right, just get out and go have fun.
But we wanted to get some fresh air, go in the snow and get cold, whatever. We got like a funny, like, baby, snowsuit.
Oh yeah. Where they just look like a pillow or something like that.
Yeah, it's just like
super
poof.
padded.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Anyway, so we went up there, and right when we got outside, he started crying, and he was upset. We went for like a small walk, and we were like, okay, this isn't happening. So we went back to the truck, and we put him in, and I was listening to this album, and he just was crying. And when Immunity Revoked came on, he just stopped.
Really?
Like literally, like the first lick of the guitar stopped, and he listened
awesome.
to the whole song, not crying. As soon as it was over, he started crying, and I'm like, this song on repeat for the hour drive home. Like, and
That's
so from
cool.
then on, I created a playlist of songs that make my son stop crying. And
That's awesome.
there's like 10 songs on there. Only a very few amount are metalcore or punk. Anyway, that's my rabbit trail. I really like that song, and
Yeah.
don't skip it just because it's an instrumental. I think all of their instrumentals are great songs.
Yeah.
Like they're very experimental.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, I think they're just very experimental, and I think it's hard because of what they do with the guitars to put lyrics to it.
Sure.
Especially the way Leroy screams, you know, with
Yeah.
that bounce, kind of like a rapping, rhyming scream.
Yeah.
So anyway, musically, great stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have sent it to Ryan Clark, and maybe he could have, you know.
Done something like Impending Doom.
Yeah, you never know.
Man, you know, and like this is like a completely different album. We're talking about 3 years too, from Supreme Chaos to Alpha, right? So I mean, they took a little bit of a break.
Yeah, like three new people,
Yeah.
and yeah, a new producer. I mean, so yeah, it's a totally different sound. Yeah. So should we jump into this? You want to take the reins here, Tyler?
Let's do it. Yeah, you know, and when we talk about like their new like clean vocalist who's part of the band, it's something that metalcore bands have done for like ever, right? So you think of like the typical like screaming, singing, you know, Devil Wears Prada, As I Die, and that type
We
of
need
thing.
a catchy hook for a chorus,
Yep.
and some aggressive breakdowns in between.
That's right. And so like War of Ages never was that. If they're gonna do a chorus, it's gonna be like a scream chorus type of
Group
thing.
shout.
A group shout, yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is where it's different. And you know what? Like, I love it. I love the way the clean vocalist sings. I was thinking like the first time I heard this song, Fullness, I wasn't the biggest fan. I think because I was expecting War of Ages of the past, and I was like, what the heck? This isn't War of Ages.
They're singing.
You know, they're actually singing. And I'll say this right now, Gary.
Okay.
For the first time in a long time, we didn't pick the first song on the album.
What? You're kidding? This isn't track
No,
one?
it's not. Creators track 1, which is also a good song. But Fullness is track 2. Yeah, so we jumped and we did
They
not
must
do...
have accidentally switched them. You know, when they
It was
recorded
meant to be a first track,
probably
right?
Yeah.
No, so we changed it, you know. But this song, right when it comes in, I love the intro. It's a little bit different, right? We're talking about like not a metalcore super fast. We talked about Desire. We've talked about all consuming fire. They come in and
All
it's just
consuming
heavy.
podcast.
I almost said
comes in.
I almost said all consuming podcast. But it just comes in and it goes hard. And this is like kind of a slower, different type of guitar than what they've done. And don't get me wrong, there's some heavy parts. And there's some really cool parts of this song. But it starts off a little bit different.
It's kind of the same. Like they have
It's
songs
hard
where they
to
kind of start like that. It's not as fast. It's just a
It's
different
not as
tone.
fast. Yes.
Yeah,
And it
I feel
feels
like,
like
we need to do a different key for this album than what we've been doing. You know.
Yeah, and it kind of feels to me like it's like maybe one guitar going a little bit at the beginning. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But it's just not fully there. It's kind of quiet and then it builds up. But I really, really like it. And I love when after he says, bury me towards the beginning, and then he just comes in with God, give me the strength to carry through. Like the way he screams that is brutal.
Yeah.
Like so brutal. And it's like comes out of nowhere, it feels like almost. Love it.
All through that, those guitars in the
Yes.
background, so fast. I don't know if it's both
So
of them
fast.
doing the same thing, but they're like
Yeah.
matching the drums, and everything's just like, I don't know, power metal.
Very
Like-
power. Yeah.
Like
And-
it's fast. It's not like your typical stuff.
For sure. And like the way the lyrics go with it, and like I just love it. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's because there's this like major dynamic of the song now, to where you have this clean vocalist and you've got these verses and you're going to have your breakdown and you're going to have your guitar solos. There's so much dynamics to this song that when they build up and they get to that chorus that I'm sure we're going to talk about, like it feels like it all fits together.
So I love the guitar work, and I think at that time, I probably didn't.
Yeah.
You know, in 2017, Gary did not. The pinch harmonic that they do, you know, diddly, 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 wow,
Yeah.
like did nothing for me, and now I'm like, this is fast, and then whoa, and now they're doing that, and
Yeah.
I don't know what I listened to since then, but I think my musical taste has gotten a lot more technical now, and back then I was a bit more, give me the chugs,
Sure.
you know. So I appreciate it more now, going back to Fullness. Like I really like Fullness today. But yeah, and you know, that guitar solo that comes in is very like yeah, I don't know, power metal-y, like Theocracy.
It's hard to,
you know?
yeah.
It's
Theocracy.
You know, have you not listened to Theocracy?
I've heard of Theocracy, but I feel like I put them in the same like era as like White Cross and your bands like that. You
Really
know,
old.
the ones you talk about of
Sure,
old Blood
but
Good.
modern. Sure, but modern. That
Okay.
Sure, yeah. Now I feel like I need to show you Theocracy. Just a couple songs.
You might have to do that. So let's get to the chorus.
Even when my flesh takes over me, we'll battle on. We'll battle on. We trust in the heart of the sun. We'll battle on. We will battle on. It burns within us, holding all we know. Let 'em heal you, let 'em heal you. So hold me in your arms and let me dwell within your favor. Lead me through the fullness of you. Never letting go. So hold me in your arms and
Gary.
You want me to do it, don't you?
I do.
in your arms and let me in your spirit.
That is not what it sounds like at all. And even before we get to the chorus, that pre-chorus that builds up, where it's like, it burns within us, holding all we know, let him heal you, let him heal you, and the guitar's like getting higher as it gets, da na 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 na.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like that part's really awesome. And then Gary, tell me your reaction to this chorus,
You mean other than singing along with it?
other than singing. Like, how do you feel? I mean, it's just so different, you know.
For them, yeah. Not
Yeah, for
this
them. So
album,
different for them.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they have a new singer, and they probably were recording the song, and like, hey, this guy can sing. You should do it.
I'm
I mean,
so
I
glad
like
I
it.
asked you about your reaction to the chorus.
I just don't have a reaction. I'm like, I don't
Dude,
know. He's singing.
here's
man.
my
like.
here's what I think. Here's what I think.
I'm not like you. I don't go, oh, this is such a catchy chorus.
How
They
did,
they sing so clean.
how did you know I was
like
going to
this.
say that?
Dude, and like to me, I'm like, okay, this, I don't know, that like I feel okay. What am I thinking of? There is this dude who is a singer who
Okay.
I think he sounds like, and maybe that's why I'm not blown away or that surprised.
Who?
Here we go. All right. Originally, his first band that I ever heard him in was called Fighting Instinct.
Okay.
I don't remember his name. That album was great. Then another band, their original lead singer decided he was done with touring and music and whatnot, and so they got this new singer, and that's this guy from Fighting Instinct. And he went into this band called Decipher Down,
Gotcha.
right? All rock. So that guy, I know you've seen him in concert
Yeah.
because we went to a
Yeah.
Skillet concert together,
Oh,
and
yeah,
they
I know.
opened for Skillet. Not together. We both went, but we weren't. You know, I was like, Tyler's over there, but I don't know him very well. You remember that?
I do remember that.
Was that like the INB theater in Spokane, the really big?
It was
building?
one of those up and down concerts. Like
Yeah. Everyone was like, there was no like pit area. You like sat in your chairs and like it like wanted to be an arena, but it's not.
it wasn't.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it reminds me of the lead singer of Decipher Down. Kind of that, you know, he can wail and he can sing, but he shouldn't be doing rock
Yeah.
kind of thing. But now he's in metal, so I don't know. That's
So-
who I kind of thought of when I heard his.
I feel
Queens.
that. I feel that, you know, and I think of like As Lay Dying is a great example. We've talked about them quite a bit through this episode. Like Josh Gilbert, like has
People are gonna
those
be like, you guys
vocals.
are obsessed with them. All right.
Well, we kind of are, but like Josh Gilbert has those vocals that are like it wouldn't have to just be in metal. Maybe it doesn't even fit in metal, right? And I think these are those type of, you know, the singing voice. And when I first heard this chorus, I didn't know how I felt about it, but then about 10 minutes later, I kept humming it and going over it in my head again and again. And I do, like, when I think about like these lyrics, like just take like the music part, the technical part out of it, like the lyrics itself. So hold me in your arms and let me dwell within your favor. Lead me through the fullness of you. Never let go. And all those yours and yous are capital.
Yeah. It's a worship
and
song,
when he,
man. Like,
it is. And when he sings it, like you feel it, you know, and you can just, when you sing along with it, you're like, yeah, dude, like singing to God. This is a worship song and it's awesome. One thing I do love about this is how he says, we'll battle on, we will battle on, through the verse, and the second verse. Like,
Yeah.
it'll be like a lyric, even when my flesh takes over me, we'll battle on, we will battle on. We trust in the heart of his son, we'll battle on, we will battle on. I love the way that Leroy screams those.
Is that a
those
callback
lyrics.
to their song "Battle On"?
They say battle on quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah. So there's when they get out of a chorus, he gets into this like kind of bridge thing, and I love the way the music breakdowns.
It
like,
gets
to
kind of
this.
creepier. You talk about the part where it has like kind of that ominous sound, maybe.
I don't maybe I'd have to re-listen to it. So he says like, I will stand in the midst
Yes.
of his design.
Yes.
You know, culture, revive humiliation of my condition. Yeah, I don't really remember. It's kind of a breakdown. You think it's creepy?
You think it's going? No, I think like so. Like the music leading up to it's like, and it's like it's hard to explain, but like then it goes and you're like, dude, we're gonna get a breakdown, and it even has like a ka ka, and then it goes into him doing this like almost a bridge. It's not like a full breakdown.
Oh, there's like a synth in the background.
Yeah, there's like a synth kind of going in the background, and then all of a sudden you hear the drummer hit boom boom, and it comes in.
Yeah, I never paid attention to that synth because now I'm trying to think of what band that reminds me of. Well, Becoming the Archetype.
Yeah, that's definitely a good comparison.
Yeah, so that whole breakdown and like the way the guitar's like doing those, I want to call them whammy kind of things in between
Yes.
his like, you know, in the midst of his design, and he goes whoom, and
Yeah.
then with the synth in the background, super quiet and high. Yeah,
It's
No,
pretty
I-
darn cool.
Yeah,
It
I like
is. I think you're right by saying it's like a bridge more so than a breakdown, even though it probably technically is. But it's more of like not like a typical War of Ages like you think from Arise and Conquer breakdown. You know?
right.
It's more just kind of like power heavy
Yeah,
lyrics.
I mean, these guitars are great at. It almost seems like they recorded the whole song in one sitting, right?
Yeah,
because
yes,
they're going
yeah.
so fast, and they transition from like different grooves very quickly and very well.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they're just changing, you know, kind of like Norma Jean. They're not doing breakdowns; they're just changing the song. They're just doing something a little bit different.
Right.
But yeah, they do a great job. This whole album, like the guitar work is just, it's great. These two work really well together. Anyway, we've been going on a tangent here for a long time.
We have.
And I
Let's
think
wrap it up.
Yeah, I think it's time to move on to the next song.
This is it, dude.
So last song, let's do this.
Coming to an end.
We picked, well, we didn't pick.
We didn't pick this one.
This song was picked by another patron of ours,
That's right.
Tim Jones.
Yeah. Tim's awesome, man. He's on our Instagram a lot. He's messaged us. He's hoping, Gary, I don't know if you know this, he's hoping for a Sleeping Giant episode at some point.
Well, guess what? So are we.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That's right.
he's one of the people that's like, you know, do you take requests?
Yeah.
Yeah, like everything
sure,
we
dude.
do is like we love talking about all this music, and we have a hard time picking. And so if we get an overwhelming amount of people being like, do this album, we're gonna do that. But for our patrons, we also say, what song should we do, right? And so he told us Void, and I had a different song in mind off of Void. What did I have in mind? Oh, like Miles Apart, I think is what
it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, and I also like Sulfur and Salt. But yeah, anyway, so we're doing Void for Tim.
Oh, yeah. And truthfully, though, like Tim, Gary might have picked something else. But, man, I'm with you. I picked this one. I think Tim actually said do either of the first two songs off of Void. And we're like, we're going to do Void. This one's for Tim. And you know what? I love this song. I like this album. You can tell that this is where they were going with Alpha. And then they get to Void. So do you have the details on Void and all that?
I do. And before I start, I'm surprised you said you could tell this is where they were going.
I can, for sure.
Really? To me, this album is just nothing like they've ever done.
I see that, but I think it also is like if you got Supreme Chaos to Alpha to this, it's like, okay, they're like steps. You don't see that at all?
I do agree. Those three are very big steps, right? Where before you had 4 albums that are cookie cutter.
Nearly the same.
Right? Yeah, very similar. And now it's like, whoa, this is different. Whoa, this is different. Whoa, this is different. I think each step is getting a little further apart.
Sure.
So,
miles
let me jump
apart,
into this.
say.
Miles apart. Yeah. 9th album. The most recent. We're due for another one, right?
We are. It's
every
coming out
every
soon. It
2
has
to
to be.
3 years. Like it's been 2 years. A random 3 year in there, and then 2 years. So it's been 2. So another new bassist.
Just
I feel like
keep going through.
bass players.
Biggest
are just
turnover in the band.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Although we're gonna get here, Me Likey the bass
Oh, good.
in this. I'm sorry, I just said Me Likey, but I love the bass in this song, and we're gonna get there. Okay,
So
continue.
the clean vocalist is gone. So the clean vocals in this are Leroy.
Stop.
And background stuff.
That can't be true.
For sure it is.
That has to be false.
He did clean vocals on Alpha too. I mean, he was the more raspy clean vocals. He just wasn't that really clean, crisp.
What?
Right. So anyway, before you keep interrupting me, like I'm just trying to get through the details, Tyler.
Sorry, you're blowing my mind, dude.
Here we go. Produced by a guy named Troy Glessner. Now, I don't know who this guy is. And I don't know if he was actually the producer. It's the only person I could find credits on. For whatever reason, there's not very many details out there about this album, and it's kind of stressful for me. Like, I'm like, I need information.
I need the deets.
So this guy's worked on a lot of stuff, and I'm very surprised. So you're probably going to hear Troy Glessner a lot from me.
Okay.
So he's done Constellations, August Burns Red, Anne Berlin, New Surrender, right? Anne Berlin, yeah. He's done Under Oath, They're Only Chasing Safety.
Oh.
He's done
we're
With
cooking.
Roots Above and Branches Below
Wow.
from Devil Wears
So
Prada.
he shaped my
Lots
life,
of
is what you're saying.
Emery. He's done Dustin Kensrue, Citizens, The Classic Crime, Wolves at the Gate, Cutlass, Norma Jean, Nine Lashes, The Showdown. I mean, the list goes on.
He's on everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool.
So anyway, let's jump into it.
Void.
Separated from darkness.
So, okay, just starting this song, right? When he says the separated from darkness part, that's pretty cool. But the intro is really, it's produced. It is kind of like some electronic stuff going on too. I don't mind it. I don't hate it. It's a little bit different.
Okay. You're looking at me like I need to have an opinion here. Do you want me to throw mine out?
I mean, is mine different than yours?
Okay. I'll do this summary that I think of this song. So I think this song's intention, in fact, the album, is to capitalize on the word void. Sure. And I feel like there's a lot of reverb in this, vocally and with guitars, like this weird kind of echoey, spatial sound. There's a lot of ambient type noises.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they did a great job at, if what they were going for is to make this spatial void feeling, like you're within this void sonically, sure. It's there, right? They did a good job of doing this.
See, here's my thing though, before we get to your favorite part. Their guitar tones in Void, I think, are a little bit different. A little bit heavier.
They're a little meatier, yeah.
They're heavy. There's a lot more chug to them. Mm-hmm. And so I really like that guitar tone. There's also, I don't know who's doing backup like screams, but there's some parts where like there's a low scream on top of Leroy's scream, and it's sick.
Yeah, even when he's singing, there's like a really high scream behind him.
Yeah, so I don't know who's doing that, but it's a little bit different than what we've heard previously. So I really, really like that. The part where he screams the purest form of creation, the backup screams behind that are like low, and it adds a ton. But I think I can guess your favorite part. Is it Leroy on top of Leroy?
I think it is him. I think it's got some effects, make it really deep. But I don't know. In the credits, I don't know if there was an actual backup vocalist in this one.
Interesting. You telling me that Leroy is doing cleans on this actually really changes my opinions on the cleans.
Okay.
Because I was like, man, if it's the same dude from Alpha, like I feel like he took a step backwards.
He's not in the band though. He didn't even tour for that album. Like he just recorded and he's gone.
So if it isn't the same guy from Alpha, like I think Leroy did a pretty darn good job.
I think so too. I'm surprised.
And, you know, it's not necessarily like what I was expecting their cleans to be after Alpha, but if it's a different dude, I'm okay with that. If it's Leroy doing it, like that's cool.
You sound like you don't believe me, Tyler.
I don't necessarily do, but that's okay. Now, my absolute favorite part, and I think this might be yours too. Okay, so you get after that first chorus, and you have like the bass that's freaking slapping, and you just hear it, and it's crunching, and it's going, and Leroy's screaming over it, but then the guitar like jumps in, and it's kind of a galloping, super heavy, awesome guitar.
Out of the crowd, we were born after darkness. Well, true, but in the image of God. Free will, but in the context of love. Foundation in faith, foundation in faith. Covered by darkness. Reformed into light. The breath of life flows through our veins. Never fail us, you will never fail us. Bone of my bone.
Yeah, because you got like this, there's kind of three sounds, you know. You got this high synth going, you got this chuggy like dun 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 dun, and then you have this middle like angry guitar sound.
Yeah.
That's just jumping through.
And the vocals are angry.
Yeah, and his vocals are, yep.
Man, the vocals are angry, but the vocals are also like super dope.
So this song, we didn't even talk about it, right? It's basically the creation of man. God creating.
Yes.
It's Genesis. Out of the void, God created life and people. Like, that's what this song's about.
Yeah. It's super awesome. I love the ending. Just like, not only like how heavy it is, but we talk about covered by darkness, formed to light. His breath, of life flows through our veins. Never fail us. You will never fail us. Absolutely. Breathing creation into us. God's plan all along. And then it ends with out from darkness.
I love the way he says darkness on
Yeah,
the song.
me
Dark,
too.
yes. Like he throws a Y in there.
Yeah.
But, and also at the very beginning, I feel like they haven't done it in a while. But after he says separated from darkness, he goes, yeah. Like
Yeah.
he does his yeah shout. And I'm like, oh, here we go. War of Ages is back.
He brings it back. It's good stuff. I'm excited to see what happens next. Is this, like you said, a sound they put together for the album Void, or is it going to be their sound moving forward?
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, Tyler,
Yeah.
was the album art.
How have we got this far without really mentioning how awesome their album art is?
Right? So they're all pretty similar until you hit Void
Yeah.
in style. But they're all made by the same dude, Dave Quiggle.
Even Void?
So that one I'm not 100% on. But looking at it and looking at their other stuff, I would say yes. I think Dave Quiggle did it all. So he's like, I don't know if this is the right thing to say, the Ryan Clark of Face Down. Like he makes a lot of the album art. One of my favorites that he's done is Hands.
Yeah.
The fetal position guy
The Constellation.
in the constellation thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does a lot of great work, and I mean, this Void was a little bit different because it's not like a warrior fighting something or killing something.
Yeah.
It's like an angel with a sword pointing through a void, right? Like it's slicing through the void. Yeah, but all the other ones are pretty cool. I mean,
They're
you got-
epic, man. Like
Yeah.
you look at it and it's like they are going to go to battle, and you could just stare at that and like look at it and you're like, oh man, this is some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's like it's a Lord of the Rings album cover.
They're
Gonna slay some orcs.
they're gonna go fight some orcs. They're getting ready to go destroy the orcs. That is hilarious.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Their first two are just like dudes holding like battle axes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Arise and Conquer is like a flag. He's like holding a flag and like stabbing it through like a raptor's
Yeah.
mouth or something like that. I never knew what the album was. I just always thought it was like this red swirly thing, and I never like paid attention to it when it
It's
first
brutal.
came out. Anyway,
It's
I've
brutal.
obviously seen it, but
And then you've got Eternal's just like the dude, right? The helmet.
yeah, it's like a guy wearing a helmet, a purple guy. But yeah, Alpha's he's like cut off a demon's head or something.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's like
a- yeah,
holding
that's a
it
cool
out
one.
in front. That's probably my favorite
Yeah.
album cover.
Supreme Chaos is pretty crazy. One might say it's chaotic.
I don't know.
Goblins, lions, flying monkeys.
Dude's chopping
bears.
off like their heads with a sword, and he's holding a shield. There's like lightning striking.
It's epic, and you know, like I think part of like the album art, like you think about it, like it fits with the music, it fits with who they are. Like their War of Ages, it's super warrior driven. Like their lyrics are always about keeping the faith and battling and staying on the path and fighting to further the kingdom of God, you know. And so I think it all fits together, and I love it.
Yeah, that's one thing that I feel like we didn't mention enough. Like, even though, like, sure, their last 3 albums have changed a lot, like,
Yeah.
they're big steps in other new directions. But what I love about this band is that no matter what they do, changing in style and even their lineup, their lyrics don't.
Yeah.
You know, they may be trying to push boundaries and try to get other people interested in their music by kind of changing up their genre, but their lyrics are always like Christ-centered and very
Yeah.
spiritual, and it's really awesome. They're not even stepping away and being very ambiguous.
No.
You know, like they're clearly doing this with that intention, and that's
Right. I
awesome. I
love
totally
it.
respect them for this.
Yeah. And you know, we said this before, like sometimes we take for granted how awesome their lyrics are for spreading the gospel, right? It's in
Yeah.
every album. It's nearly in every song thing for them. It's just who they are and it's what they do. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all we got for you guys on War of Ages today. Check us out on Instagram. let's interact on there. Check out our stories, and if you have any thoughts on any like suggestions or anything, DM us. Let's talk, man. Let's talk some metal.
Slide into our DMs.
Slide into our. Oh, and before we forget, man, Patreon's been going awesome so far. We have so much content up there, and like interacting with our patrons has been super cool.
Yeah. So from this episode,
yeah,
we have like 5 songs that we put on.
yeah,
One of them we really had a hard time. We wanted to squeeze it into this episode, but it would have pushed us over 2 hours.
yeah.
But anyway, because we liked it so much, we put it on our Patreon for free. So if you just go there, you'll find it. There's a couple other free things, but it's about a 15-minute conversation. And we did it on the song Desire.
Yeah.
We had fun.
A lot of fun. It's a good little song we did. Wish we could have put it in, man, but
Yeah.
you guys still get it for free.
But anyway, the other 4 songs that we threw up on Patreon were Battle On, From Ashes, Immortal, and Through the Flames. So
Yeah.
go on our Patreon, check it out. Thanks for listening. Have a good day, night, morning, evening, whenever you're
Wherever
listening
you
to
are.
this.
See you later. All Consuming Podcast out.
Thank you for listening.